Department of the CPC Central Committee. Today, we are going to have the third session of a series of press conferences. We are very happy to have with us Mr. Han Wenxiu, Executive Deputy Director, Central Financial and Economic Affairs Commission, Mr. Hu Zucai, Vice Chairman of the NDRC, Vice Minister Li Ben of Ministry of Science Technology, Mr. Ye Ming from Ministry of Ecology and Environment, Mr. Wang Shouwen, Vice Minister of Commerce and Deputy China International Trade Representative, Mr. Chen Yulu, Deputy Governor of PBOC, and we'd like to invite them to brief you about the progress in economic and ecological fronts, and they will also take your questions. First of all, I'd like to invite Mr. Han Wenxiu to make opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. Since the 18th National CPC Congress in 2012, we have seen an extraordinary decade in party and national development. Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core, China has built a moderately prosperous society and started a new journey of building a modern socialist country. And we have made milestones achievements in economic and ecological development. The most outstanding theoretical achievement in the past 10 years is the Xi Jinping economic thought and the Xi Jinping ecological civilization thought. And the most outstanding practical achievement is the great improvement in economic and development and ecological environment. To be more specific, this is a decade in which China's economic strength has taken a big step forward. In 2021, China's GDP reached 114 trillion yuan, accounting for more than 18% of the global economy, up from 11.4% in 2012, and China's status as the world's second-largest economy is consolidated. China's per capita GDP reached 12,500 US dollars, approaching the threshold of high-income countries. China's contribution to world economic growth has remained at around 30% over the years, making it the largest growth driver of the world economy. This is the decade of innovative development, taking innovation as the primary driving force. In development, the ratio of R&D investment to GDP has increased from 1.91% to 2.44%. And China's ranking in Global Innovation Index has risen from the 34th to the 12th place. China leads the world in constructing high-speed railroads and 5G networks, and a major breakthrough have been achieved in manned space flight and Mars exploration. Significant progress has been made in building a country of innovators. This is the decade of coordinated development. China's urbanization rate rose from 53.1% to 64.7%. The gap between urban and rural residents' per capita disposable income decreased from 2.88 to 1 to 2.5 to 1, and the Gini coefficient of residents' income dropped from 0.474 to 0.466. Equal basic public services was promoted with more balanced, coordinated, and complementary regional development. This is the decade of green development. China's ecological and environmental conditions have made a historic turnaround, with less hazy weather and black smelly water bodies, and more blue skies and clear water and green mountains. Afforestation accounts for about a quarter of global artificial afforestation. Cumulative CO2 emissions per unit of GDP have dropped by about 34%. A total amount of installed green power, such as wind power and photovoltaic power generation, and the production and sales of new energy vehicles, rank first in the world. China has promoted the conclusion of the Paris Agreement and proposed to achieve carbon peaking before 2030 and carbon neutrality before 2060, making a major contribution to international response to climate change and promoting global environmental governance. This is a decade of open development. The breadth and the depth of China's opening up to the outside world has been comprehensively expanded. The market share of commodity exports in the international market has increased from 11% to 15%, and our position as the #1 trader in goods has been strengthened. We have fully implemented the management system of pre-establishment national treatment plus negative list for foreign investment, and more foreign investment was utilized. We have actively built a network of high-standard free trade areas and increased the number of FTAs signed from 10 to 19. We have built 21 pilot free trade zones and a Hainan free trade port, created a series of pace setters and testing grounds for reform and opening up, and form a new pattern of all-round and high-level opening up to the outside world. This is a decade of shared development. We have historically resolved the question of absolute poverty that has plagued the Chinese nation for thousands of years, and nearly 100 million rural poor people have all been lifted out of poverty, making a great contribution to the cause of poverty reduction in the world. We have built the world's largest education, social security, and healthcare systems, increased life expectancy from 75.4 years to 77.9 years, increased the proportion of the middle-income group from about a quarter to about a third, and continuously improve people's living standards and quality. This is a decade of balancing development with security. The endeavor to prevent and resolve major risks has achieved important milestones, and the red line of no systematic risks has been kept. The number of deaths in production and safety accidents per unit of GDP fell by 83.8%, and the safety of people's lives and property was better protected. We have been more aware and capable in production safety. This is a decade of continuous reform and improvement of our economic system and ecological management system. We adhere to and improve the basic socialist economic system, adhere to the public ownership as the mainstay, the joint development of a variety of economic ownerships, adhere to the distribution according to work as the main approach, the coexistence of a variety of distribution methods, adhere to the socialist market economy system, give full play to the decisive role of the market in allocation of resources, and better play the role of the government. We have established a set of ecological civilization system, implemented the strictest possible ecological environmental protection system, established a comprehensive system for the efficient use of resources, and established a sound ecological and environmental protection inspection system. These system-building efforts have provided strong support for high-quality economic development and the continuous improvement of the eco-environment. At the same time, we are conscious that China is still a developing country, still in the primary stage of socialism, with low per capita income, relatively poor eco-environment, and unbalanced and inadequate development. We still have a long way to go to build a socialist, modern, strong country in all around the way, and the second centenary goal, as well as to the high advanced international level. We should firm up confidence, remain cool-headed, stay loyal to our original mission, and continue to work hard. We will focus on economic development as the center and fully embrace the new development concepts, implement the new development paradigm, and take concrete steps in high-quality development in order to realize better production development, wealthy life, and better ecological conditions at a high level. Thank you, Vice Director Han, for your opening remarks. Now the floor is open for taking questions. The gentleman on the second row, please. From China Media Group. Since the 18th, so we have been working hard to improve people's livelihood in a universal and a comprehensive manner with increased sense of benefits for the people. So what progress can we make in sharing development for people's livelihood in order to meet people's expectation? Thank you. Thank you for your question. Since the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, and the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core have been committed to the people-first development philosophy. We have put in place a high-quality initial prosperous society that to the benefit of all people. And we have made historical progress in people's living standards to the benefit of all people with a stronger sense of belonging and happiness and security. First, we have historically resolved the question of absolute poverty. We have achieved a complete victory in eradicating absolute poverty, lifting nearly 100 million people in rural areas out of poverty, so that no one left behind has become a hallmark of initial prosperity in an all-round way. At the same time, we have implemented the follow-up strategy to revitalize the rural side in order to consolidate the progress we have already made. Second, we have improved people's living standards in all around the way. In the past decade, we have increased the jobs of 30 million people every year, increased the people's income by nearly 80%, faster than our economic growth rate. The gap between urban and rural residents in income has narrowed to 2.5 to 1, with more than 400 million people as the middle income group. The Ngo coefficient, according to the UN standards, Chinese people's life has entered the stage of relatively wealthy stage. The private car ownership increased to 37 for every 100 households, doubling the level in 2012. And we have also improved our living conditions. We have renovated more than 39 million apartments to the benefit of more than 90 million residents. And more than 180 million people in rural areas have migrated to urban areas for better city life. And the cultural life for people have also improved. We have seen mass consumption of cultural and tourism services as well as leisure and fitness programs. Third, we have made public services universal to the benefit of all people. In the past decade, we have improved education in rural, remote, ethnic minority areas, revolutionary old bases, as well as recent poverty-stricken areas. We have narrowed the gaps between regions, between rural and urban areas, and between schools. We have made compulsory education more universal than high-income countries. And we have also made higher education universal. The average years of education for our workforce reached 10.9 years. We have also improved our public health system, making us more capable in response to health emergencies. We have also improved the basic healthcare services. With improved healthcare system at multiple levels, we built a number of national healthcare centers as well as provincial centers. More than 85% of county-level hospitals reached the level of level 2 hospitals in China. We have also seen a good pooling effect of good hospitals with greater competency of our primary level community hospitals. Our average life expectancy reached 77.9 years, leading middle and high-income countries. Infrastructure in rural areas have been deepened and with improved services, leading to improved living conditions in rural areas. Fourth, we have built a more closely knit social security network. The coverage of a basic pension system has increased from 790 million to 1.03 billion. We have also improved the level of basic pension and the basic living allowance system. And for our basic medical insurance, its coverage has increased from 440 million to 1.36 billion. And the basic the subsidy in per capita terms for medical care has increased from 240 yuan to 610 yuan. And we have also provided more support to people in special difficulties as well as low-income families. So we increased protection as our economies grows. So in the past 10 years, we have made historical progress in providing better livelihood for the people. But at the same time, we still have a long way to go to meet people's aspiration for a better life. So in the next stage, we'll continue to work as hard as we can, do as our capacity permits. We will continue to protect and improve people's livelihood in development, and we will pay particular attention to those urgent issues, make our protection more universal, basic, and as a last resort. We will also provide equal public basic services in order to improve the income of middle and low-income groups, give more support to those priority areas and groups in particular need, so that all people can enjoy a better life in high-quality development, so that they will move concretely to the goal of common prosperity. Thank you. Next question. The gentleman on the first row, please. Thank you. From Haibao News, we have noted that in 2020, the
现代环境治理体系是国家治理体系和治理能力现代化建设的重要内容，也是实现美丽中国目标的重要制度保障。2020年，中办、国办印发了关于构建现代环境治理体系的指导意见，首次明确了现代环境治理体系的基本内容。近年来，各地区各部门认真落实党中央、国务院的部署，取得了一些成效。下面呢，介绍一些主要的亮点内容。一是夯实党政主体责任区，中央和各省分别制定了生态环境保护责任清单，各级人民政府每年向同级人大、省级政府每年向国务院报告生态环境的目标任务完成情况。党中央对党省级的党委政党污染防治攻坚战的执行情况进行讨论，开展并持续深化中央生态环境治理督查，各省也建立了省级的环保督查制度。这些举措呢，有力地推动了党政同责、一岗双责的落实。二是生态环境法治建设方面，“13五”以来，先后制定了《大气、水、土壤污染防治法》等13部法律和17部行政法规。全国人大常委会每年开展生态环境领域的执法检查，基本完成全国生态环境综合行政执法改革，加强行政执法与刑事司法推动前党政同志，
Those efforts have aggressively enhanced people's accountability. Second of all, as to the rule of law development concerning the ecological development, as to air pollution,
长江、黄河建立了全流域的横向生态保护的设立国家
Thirdly, improving market mechanism. We have launched a national carbon emission trading market outline, established a horizontal ecological protection compensation mechanism for the entire Yangtze and Yellow River basins, set up a national green development fund, and according to the relevant departments, the balance of green credit grew to 15.9 trillion RMB by the end of 2021. First, guiding businesses to assume social responsibility. Over 3.3 million stationary pollution sources nationwide have been brought under emissions management. We've introduced a comprehensive environmental protection list and a reform plan for the legal disclosure system of environmental information. Fifth, building an action system for all. We have issued a code of conduct for environmental protection of the citizen and launched an action plan to raise citizens' awareness of ecological protection. Building a beautiful China, I'm in action to promote a green lifestyle. To achieve the goal of building a beautiful China in 2035, the environmental governance system has a long way to go in reducing pollution and carbon emissions and increasing efficiency in fighting the battle against pollution. Moving forward, we will first further consolidate local ecological environmental responsibilities and improve the vertical management system for monitoring, supervision, and enforcement. Second, we will continue to strengthen the responsibility of companies for environmental governance and implement a management system of emission permits in accordance with the law. Third, we will strengthen social supervision and continue to promote the opening of environmental protection facilities to the public. Fourth, we will strengthen market systems and innovate environmental governance models, increase the involvement of market players. Thank you.
谢谢主持人澎湃新闻记者提问。党的18大以来，中国坚定不移扩大对外开放，推出了一系列新的开放举措。同时呢，一段时间以来，逆全球化和贸易保护主义有抬头的趋势。请问如何评价这10年来中国对外开放方面的态度？
Since the 18th National Party Congress, China has opened wider to the outside world and launched a series of new opening up initiatives. So how do you evaluate the progress made by China in opening up during this decade? Thank you for your question. Just now, Director Han Wenxiu mentioned earlier that this decade has been a decade of solid progress in opening up and development. Since the 18th National Party Congress, under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core, we have actively promoted opening up and made remarkable achievements. First, the cause of opening up has made historic achievements. In 2012, China's total trade in goods and services was $4.4 trillion, ranking second in the world. And in 2021, it increased to $6.9 trillion, topping the world for 2 consecutive years. Our two-way investment has remained a leading position in the world, with 1.15 trillion RMB in foreign investment attracted in 2021, up 62.9% from 2012. From 2017 to 2021, our attraction of foreign investment remained second in the world for 4 consecutive years. The high-quality economic and trade cooperation under the BRI has been pressed ahead steadily. Second, institutional opening up has been accelerated. In 2013, we launched the first negative list of foreign investment access in the pilot free trade zones. At that time, there were 190 restrictive measures, and now the number has been reduced to 27. In 2016, China replicated this negative list nationwide for foreign investment market access. And we cut restrictive measures from 93 to 31. In 2020, we started to implement the new foreign investment law with the new administration system for foreign investment. In 2021, we introduced the first negative list for cross-border service trade in Hainan. So steady progress has been seen in institutional opening up in China. The third, the opening up of pilot FTZs and the free trade port has entered into a new phase. Under the personal care, instruction, and promotion of President Xi Jinping, pilot FTZs and the free trade port have turned from blueprint into reality. In 2013, the first pilot free trade zone was established in Shanghai. Since then, a total of 21 FTZs have been set up, and a total of 278 institutional innovation outcomes have been replicated and promoted nationwide. The FTZs, covering less than 0.4% of the country's land area, contribute 17.3% of imports and exports, and 18.5% of foreign investment of China. Since Hainan Free Trade Port was launched in 2018, more than 120 institutional innovation outcomes have been introduced. Fourth, the FTA upgrading strategy has achieved new breakthroughs. Just now, Director Han mentioned that the number of FTAs China has signed has nearly doubled from 10 in 2012 to 19. At the same time, the share of trade with our FTA partners in China's total foreign trade has increased from 17% to about 35% last year. We all know that this year RCEP has come into force, thus creating a free trade area that covers most of the population in the world and with the largest scale in trade and economy. Last year, General Secretary Xi Jinping also announced that China would actively promote China's accession to the CPTPP and DEPA, or Digital Economy Partnership Agreement, indicating our further steps towards the goal of high-standard FTAs. Fifth, we've engaged in global economic governance and made new contributions. In 2014, General Secretary Xi Jinping chaired the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Beijing. And during that meeting, he pushed 21 members to agree on the Beijing roadmap for APEC's contribution to the realization of the FTA-AP, or Free Trade Agreement of the Asia-Pacific, which laid out a blueprint for the establishment of a high-standard FTA in the Asia-Pacific region. In 2017, President Xi Jinping chaired the G20's Hangzhou Summit and worked to reach the guiding principles for global investment policymaking. And this guiding principle had laid the foundation for the launch of the Investment Facilitation Initiative at the WTO in 2017. We've also actively participated in the WTO reform and firmly upheld the multilateral trading system. On April 21st this year, General Secretary Xi Jinping stressed at the opening ceremony of the 2022 annual meeting of the Boao Forum for Asia that no matter how the world will change, China's faith in and its commitment to reform and opening up will not waver. We will follow the decisions of the CPC Central Committee, stay committed to a high-level opening up, and pursue sustained development with openness. Thank you. I'm from Reuters. My first question is about the development of green finance. What are the bottlenecks and difficulties? So how to address them? My second question is that due to the pandemic, some analysts believe that China's economic growth rate in the second quarter may slow down or even become negative. So how would you respond with macro policies? What incremental policy tools will be used? So there are two questions. The first one is about green finance. The other is about China's economic situation and macroeconomic policies. So I would like to ask Deputy Governor Chen Yulu from the PBOC. Thank you for your question. The international community pays higher level attention to China's development of green finance. Vigorously developing green finance is an intrinsic requirement to implement Xi Jinping's thought on ecological civilization and to practice the vision of lucid waters and large mountains are invaluable assets. It is also an important initiative to achieve the goal of carbon peaking and carbon neutrality proposed by General Secretary Xi Jinping. China is a pioneer in promoting the concept of green finance in the international community. Up to now, the three functions and the 5 pillars of green finance have gradually taken shape, playing an important role in supporting China's low-carbon transformation and high-quality development. First, we have basically developed a green finance standards system. By the end of 2021, our balance of green loans in domestic and foreign currency was 15.9 trillion RMB, an increase of 33% year-on-year, ranking first in the world. In 2021, we issued over 600 billion of domestic green bonds, an increase of 180% year-on-year, and the balance reached 1.1 trillion RMB, making China in a leading position in the world. Second, a green financial standard system has been built that is domestically unified, aligned with international standards, and clearly enforceable. We all know that our catalog of green bond endorsed projects, the guidelines in environmental information disclosure for financial institutions, the financing instrument for environmental rights and interests, and the carbon financial products, these 4 standards have been officially released. In addition, China has also jointly released with the EU the Common Ground taxonomy of sustainable finance, resulting in gradual convergence of green financial standards between China and the EU. Second, we have made progress in environmental information disclosure by financial institutions. Financial institutions in the pilot zones of green finance reform and innovation have compiled environmental information disclosure reports on a trial basis and will pilot carbon accounting nationwide. Third, the incentives and disciplines mechanism has been gradually improved. The PBOC has created and launched a carbon emission reduction support tool and a special refinancing loan to support the clean, efficient use of coal, driving more social capital to invest in green and low-carbon areas. In addition, the PBOC also has carried out a comprehensive evaluation of green finance for banking financial institutions and included green bond business in the scope of evaluation, guiding financial institutions to allocate more green assets in an orderly manner. Fifth, international cooperation on green finance has been deepening. In 2021, the PBOC co-chaired the G20 Working Group on Sustainable Finance and led the drafting of the G20 Roadmap on Sustainable Finance and the G20 Synthesis Report on Sustainable Finance, both of which were approved. In addition, the Network for Greening the Financial System, or NGFS, which PBOC participated in the establishment of, has become one of the most influential international green finance cooperation platforms. Moving forward, we will focus on improving the top-level design of the green finance, promote the green and low-carbon transformation of energy structure, industrial structure, way of production, and lifestyles. We will also accelerate development of standards and improve the standards for green finance, transformational finance. We will also develop carbon finance to achieve carbon control and emission reduction in a market-based manner. Just now, you have also asked a question about how to cope with the impacts of COVID-19. Following the instructions and deployment of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, we have made targeted efforts to step up the implementation of prudent monetary policy to strongly support the stabilization of macroeconomic fundamentals. First, we have cut reserve requirement ratios in a preemptive manner to keep liquidity reasonably sufficient. Second, we've guided loan market interest rates to further decline so as to lower market players' lending costs and stimulate the financing needs. Third, we have introduced a number of new structural monetary policy tools. For instance, we've launched 200 billion yuan of science and technology innovation refinancing loans and 40 billion yuan of special refinancing loans for inclusive pensions. In late March, the PBOC has issued 138.6 billion yuan of funds of support tools for carbon emission reduction and 22.5 billion yuan of special refinancing loans to support a clean and efficient use of coal, and supported financial institutions to issue 230 billion yuan and 22.5 billion yuan of qualified loans, respectively. First, we've timely introduced 23 policy initiatives to strengthen financial services and increase support for the real economy, fully supporting pandemic prevention, control, and economic and social development. Moving forward, we will further prioritizing stabilizing growth, strengthen cross-cycle policy adjustments, accelerate implementation of policy measures already in place. In particular, we will continue to stabilize the total amount of credit, continue to lower financing costs, and strengthen our support for key areas and weak links so as to step up our support for real economy. Thank you. For your question, I would like to add some points. As we all know that recently, the meeting of the Central Politburo have studied the current economic situation. The CPC Central Committee has long predicted the mounting downward pressure on the economy. And in response to the rising risks and challenges, the CPC Central Committee has put forth clear requirements that we must prevent and control the spread of COVID-19, maintain economic stability, and ensure a safe environment for development. These aspects should be well balanced rather than focusing on only one or two fronts, which is an arduous task indeed and a major task to all localities and departments. COVID-19 is a barrier to economic and social development. We must take scientific and targeted measures to effectively prevent and control the pandemic, thus creating a fundamental condition for socio-economic development. First, we need to accelerate the implementation of the policies that have already been introduced and strive to put in place all these policies ahead of schedule in the first half of this year. The State Council and relevant departments are working on detailed initiatives to actively help industries, small, medium, and micro enterprises and self-employed businesses that have been hit hard by the pandemic so as to stabilize the majority of market players. Second, we need to act quickly to launch incremental policy tools. China's fiscal and monetary policies have sufficient space and tools. With rich experience in regulation and control, we will further strengthen the well-timed regulation and take decisive and timely measures when needed. In addition, we need to solve the problems in development through reform. China has huge market vitality and development potential, and the key is to bring them out. We must unswervingly deepen reform, expand opening up, reinvigorate the economy so as to provide strong impetus for development. Fourth, we need to fully tap into the potential of domestic demand. The recently concluded 11th meeting of the Central Commission for Financial Economic Affairs has stressed the need to comprehensively strengthen infrastructure development and leverage the key role of effective investment. We also need to utilize consumption to drive economic cycles, and relevant departments are also implementing new support policies. In short, It is important to take a long-term perspective. China's economy is again at a critical juncture of overcoming difficulties and climbing over hurdles. We are faced with problems in development and some growing pains. But as long as we have firm up confidence and rise to the occasion, we can turn challenges into opportunities that will lead us to a bright future. This is the basic logics behind China's economic development. Thank you. The first row, lady, please. Thank you. I'm from Science and Technology Daily.
Quantum computing, AI, and space exploration technologies have entered the household of common people, and they're widely woven into the fabric of people's daily life. Could you give us an overview of China's achievements in technology innovation? What role does science and technology play in high-quality economic development and people's living standards? Thank you for your question. These are the frontiers of technology development and highlights of China's technology development. They were achieved under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with President Xi Jinping at its core. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, President Xi Jinping has attached great importance to technological innovation and made strategic and overall planning for China's scientific and technology cause, put forward a series of groundbreaking and long-term measures. He has asked to implement the innovation-driven development strategy and give top priority to science and technology innovation and reform, and pursue an independent technology development with Chinese characteristics. In the past decade has witnessed a greater and faster technology progress than before, with historical changes taking place across the board in China's science and technology landscape. China joined the rank of innovation-driven countries and actively integrated into a global innovation network, demonstrating an overall layout and development momentum that are unique to the new era. Just now, Deputy Director Han also mentioned the R&D spending. Indeed, last year, R&D spending is 2.7 times higher than that in 2012. And the basic research funding is 3.4 times that of 2012, which is unseen in China's history. China moved from the 34th place to the 12th place in 2021, and is the only country with rapidly rising ranking in the Global Innovation Index like no other country. In the past decade, China's science and technology has witnessed comprehensive development with improved quality and prominent characteristics, which have become the primary driving force for high-quality economic development and improvement of people's livelihood. The level of scientific research and the overall disciplinary strength have increased substantially. Several disciplines have become global leaders, and the R&D capabilities of research institutes, universities, and leading enterprises have risen significantly in global standing. The number of high-tech enterprises has increased from less than 50,000 to 330,000 in 2021. The technology innovation centers in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau Greater Bay Area ranked among the top 10 global science and technology innovation clusters. A number of world-class achievements have been scored in basic, frontier, and strategically advanced technologies. The Tianwen Mars mission, the Chang'e Lunar Exploration Mission, the Shenzhou 13 spaceship, and the Tianhe core module marked great strides in deep space exploration in China. The Deep Sea Warrior, manned submersible, the 奋斗者, 10,000-meter manned submersible, and Haidou No. 1, 10,000 unmanned submersible, marked a full spectrum of deep-sea exploration capabilities. China is also the only country that has reached quantum computing milestones in 2 physical systems. China has independently developed and applied many advanced technology equipment and systems, which has fueled rapid industrial upgrading. As Deputy Director Han said, China has led the world in high-speed railway technology, fourth-generation nuclear power, high-efficiency coal-fired power generation, ultra-high voltage power transmission, and smart grid technology. A uniquely Chinese ecology has taken shape with in-depth expansion of 5G R&D and application scenarios and AI technology, rapidly empowering numerous industries. With the support of supercomputing and computing power, the digital economy is flourishing, and smart cities, factories, healthcare, and transportation are expanding rapidly. General Secretary Xi Jinping stressed that China's science and technology costs must be oriented towards global frontiers, main economic battlefields, the country's major needs, and additionally, people's life and health. China's COVID-19 vaccines, testing agents, and medicines have played an important role in the fight against COVID-19. Recently, the International Organization for Standardization officially released the world's first PCR test standard, led by China's efforts. Which shows that China has been deeply engaged in the COVID-19 related research and won a scientific victory against the pandemic. We're also aware that compared with the technologically advanced countries, China still has a long way to go. We will follow the leadership of the CPC Central Committee, overcome the difficulties, and contribute to a technologically advanced country. Next question. Xinhua News Agency. Since the
So what measures has the CPC Central Committee adopted to strengthen its ownership over economic work? And what rules have you identified in this process? You know that the economy serves as the basis since 2012. The CPC Central Committee has strengthened its leadership over economic work with a lot of new experiences, practices, and features. First, we put emphasis that the party should set the direction, formulate the overall plan, make decisions on major policies, and be firm in its reform. The CPC Central Committee's Political Bureau and its Standing Committee conducted regular discussions on economic work, and they also made decisions, formulate plans, and get big things done through such organizations as the Central Economic Work Conference and the Commission for Financial and Economic Affairs. Second, we have embraced new development concepts and pushed for high-quality development. The Chinese economy is shifting from high-speed growth to high-quality growth, so we must fully embrace the new development concepts, put emphasis on innovative, coordinated, green, open development to the benefit of all. We should rectify any practices against the new development concepts and support any practices favorable to high-quality development. Third, we have put the people at the center in our development. We believe that development is for the people and by the people, whose benefits should be shared by the people. We will make all-out efforts and do as our capacity permits, make sustained efforts in order to increase the sense of benefits, happiness, and security of our people, so that we can gradually realize the goal of common prosperity. We are against the exclusive emphasis on material benefits, and we will not rob the rich to feed the poor. At the same time, fourth, we will focus on the supply side structural reform as our main direction, and we will build a modern economic system, make our supply system high quality and more efficient. We will also implement a domestic demand stimulating strategy and strike a dynamic balance at a high level between supply and demand. Fifth, we will move faster in building the new development paradigm, facing a complex situation of once in a century and COVID-19. We must strike balance between development and security. We will strengthen domestic circulation, promote autonomy in science and technology, promote security in food, energy, resources, industrial and supply chains in order to build a strong and resilient economic circulation system. At the same time, we will make the best use of our super large market, promote opening up at a higher level, promote new circulations, and realize win-win and common development in open cooperation. Six, we believe that a good environment, clear water and the green mountains are also gold mountains. So we have incorporated ecological progress into our overall plan. Green and low carbon development have been incorporated into high quality development, and we have shouldered our responsibility in international response to climate change. Seventh, we will strive for progress while maintaining stability. We are against hurrying up, and we will be firm in making sustained efforts. And we should prepare for a raining day and unconscious of we have followed a bottom line thinking. At the same time, we will also guide the expectation of the general public, and we will make good preparations, and we will address risks before they come up in order to ensure stable development of the Chinese economy. Thank you.
好，谢谢主持人，我是21世纪经济报道记者。我想问一下，就是党的19大把防范化解重大风险作为3大攻坚战之一。
At the 19th CPC National Congress, diffusing financial risks was identified as a major battle. What measures will be further taken to diffuse the financial risks? I would ask Deputy Governor of PBOC to take this question. Thank you for your question. Just now, Deputy Director Han said that in the past decade, China has taken solid steps in development and security. The CPC Central Committee pays close attention to diffusing and preventing financial risks. Since the 18th Party Congress, CPC National Congress, General Secretary Xi Jinping has taken the lead in making plans to prevent and diffuse major financial risks in the context of overall economic and social development. The 19th CPC National Congress called on us to fight the battle against risks. Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, and under the guidance of the Financial Committee of the State Council, PBOC, together with departments and local governments concerned, has made every effort to diffuse financial risks in line with the principle of overall stability, coordination, classified policies, and targeted measures. Thanks to these intensified efforts, the long-term potential risks that have accumulated in the financial system have been effectively tackled, and the overall financial risks have been reduced and kept under control. Firstly, we ensured financial support to the macroeconomic stability, aiming for stability in growth, CPI, employment, and balance of payments. We adopted a prudent monetary policy. with proper policy implementation, created a variety of structural monetary policy tools and let the market play a decisive role in the formation of the RMB exchange rate, maintain stable foreign exchange reserves, thus creating an enabling monetary environment for the real economy. Secondly, we maintained overall stability of the financial system. The resilience and risk resistance of financial institutions have been buttressed. At the end of 2021, 98.9% of the assets of commercial banks were within the safety boundary. 24 large banks consistently received sound ratings, and some banks' major operating indicators were among the top in the world, acting as the anchor of the financial system in China. The A-share market has withstood the test of multiple rounds of external shocks caused by various factors. Rigid payments in the bond market were broken in an orderly manner, and the market is generally operating smoothly. Thirdly, risks in key institutions and key areas have been properly handled. We took a market and law-based approach and took targeted measures to diffuse the risks for high-risk enterprises, groups, and high-risk financial institutions, bringing down the number of high-risk small and medium-sized financial institutions significantly. We also resettled the financial order, and as you can feel, we addressed the unrestrained development of shadow banking by shutting down nearly 5,000 P2P lenders. We also conducted rectification campaign to prevent internet financial risks and investigated 25,000 illegal fundraising cases. All the financial businesses of internet platform companies have been brought under our supervision. We took steady and orderly steps to implement prudent management of real estate finance, reining in the trend of financialization and bubbles emerging in the housing market. We also promptly addressed the risk of implicit debts of local governments. Fourth, we moved forward the institutional building for risk prevention and control. We improved the financial legal framework and established a number of systems for central and local financial supervision and coordination, macro-prudential management, and the deposit insurance regime. We resolutely fought corruption, inadequate regulation, and illegal activities behind these financial risks. Defusing and preventing financial risks will always be the focus of financial work. In the next step, we at PBOC will advance risk prevention and the long-term mechanism building in tandem, attach equal importance to the resolution of financial risk and anti-corruption efforts in damage recovery, improve effective regulation, and promote reform and innovation. We will continue to prevent and diffuse risks in the long term and keep to the bottom line of preventing systemic financial risks. Thank you. Next question. Guangming Daily. President Xi Jinping has stressed that funding should be put at the service of research activities. How can we free up the research institutes and scientist workers from the red tape? And can you share with us some progress in science and technology system reform? Thank you for your question. These are the complaints of the researchers and scientists in China and are the key task in our reform. From the very beginning of the 18th National CPC Congress, General Secretary Xi Jinping has given top priority to the reform of the science and technology system. And he personally put forward many tasks for this reform. 24 major reform programs were considered by the Central Committee for Deepening Overall Reform. The 143 reform tasks identified in the implementation program for deepening reform of the science and technology system have all been fully completed, and we have put into place an institutional architecture with a substantial progress in key areas and key links. And the difficulties and bottlenecks that the long-standing bottlenecks have been broken. For example, the Science and Technology Consulting Committee and the Ethics Committee were established, and to improve the allocation of scientific resources and improve the governance that can meet the needs of scientific research. We also built a number of national laboratories and reorganized the laboratory systems in China. We gave greater autonomy to universities, research institutes, and established the status of businesses as a main innovator. We strengthened the technology strength and created synergy among all parties. Just now you said that the funding should be put to used to support creative activities. We implemented a knowledge and value-based distribution policy, a trust-based system for research projects and funding management. And we rolled out reform in project evaluation, talent evaluation, and institutional assessment, and raised the proportion of funding that can incentivize researchers. And many organizations and localities explored effective paths to classified evaluation. In line with the laws of scientific exploration and technological innovation, we introduced open competition system to select the best candidates to lead key projects. We also designed a chief scientist accountability system for frontier exploration and created special projects on disruptive technologies to encourage bold exploration. Through the Young Scientist Project, we allowed young scientists to play a leading role in research projects, which was well received among the young scientists. We also gave greater autonomy to scientists in deciding technology paths and the use of funding so that they can be freed up from the red tapes and unnecessary institutional constraints. Translating the scientific findings into economic benefits have been a long-standing problem, so an important goal is to accelerate the commercialization of scientific findings and link up science and technology research with financial support. So we had a substantial increase in the revenue incentive for researchers and also began to grant researchers the ownership or long-term use rights to their findings on a pilot basis. We have built an inclusive policy and institutional system to stimulate business innovation. In 2012, the research funding, research tax refund was 50%, but now it is 100% in the key technology areas, which shows our robust support for tech firms and SMEs. Currently, more than 3/4 of R&D investment comes from the business community, and 97% of the projects in the key national repository were led or participated by the business community. The technology trading market continues to grow, and this market is an indicator of the dynamism in commercialization. Last year, technology contract value reached 3.7 billion RMB, exceeding the R&D expenditure in 2021, and it's 5.8 times that of 2012. In the capital market, the creation of the Star Board, the reform of the GEM Board, and the establishment of the Beijing Stock Exchange have opened up direct financing channels for technology enterprises and maximized role of finance in translating technology progress into economic benefits and industrial development. In the past, our problem was that there's a disconnect between technology and economy, but because of the finance and the capital market, the role of finance has been maximized and created synergy between technology progress and economic benefits. Going forward, in line with the requirements of the CPC Central Committee, we will incentivize the creativity of various types of innovators so that the scientists can realize their full potential. Thank you. Next question.
Recent years have seen unlicensed and excessive emissions and pollution discharge. So the Ministry of Ecology and Environment has just made public a number of typical cases regarding unlicensed emissions. So what measures will be adopted to fully implement emission permit system and build a system to regulate stationary sources of pollution? Thank you for your care for the emission permit system. Recently, the Ministry has made public a number of typical cases of emission permit violations with a purpose to guide enterprises to comply with the law and provide guidance in law enforcement at primary level, which has received positive response from the public. The emission permit system is an important part of the modernization of the national environmental governance system. In recent years, the Ministry of Ecology and Environment has been guided by Xi Jinping thought on ecological civilization and continuously promoting the reform of the emission permit system. Our work priorities are as follows. First, system establishment. The emission permit system has been incorporated into a number of laws on air, water, soil, solids, and noise. China has issued the regulations on the administration of emission permits, formulated a categorized management list, and introduced 76 technical specifications and 32 guidelines for self-monitoring. Second, full coverage. More than 3.3 million stationary pollution sources have been included in the management of emission permits, of which more than 350,000 emission permits have been issued, more than 2.94 million emission registrations have been made, and more than 6,000 emission rectification notices have been issued. Third, system integration. The management of EIA registration and emission permit registration is merged or combined together for 40 industries with low emission levels to reduce the burden on businesses. We've worked with taxation authorities to harmonize the method of calculating pollutant emissions for environmental protection tax, and we have steadily aligned the emission permit system with various systems such as environmental monitoring and statistics. Fourth, strict regulation. In 2021, saw the investigation and prosecution of more than 3,500 emission permit cases, with fines amounting to more than 300 million yuan. Authorities at central and local levels have continued to made public typical cases of violations, which served as a good deterrent. Fifth, user-friendly services. We've built a nationwide unified information platform for the management of emission permits for stationary sources of pollution and introduced an electronic licensing standard for emission permits. In the next step, We will align various environmental management systems for stationary sources of pollution with the emission permit system as the core, implement the guidance on strengthening the enforcement and supervision of emission permits, promote single document management, and start to build a new pattern of enforcement and supervision in which enterprises discharge pollutants according to the permits, government conduct regulation according to law, and the whole society is involved in supervision. We will also step up publicity and training to raise awareness of emitters to comply with the law so as to make our supervision robust and flexible. Thank you. Thank you.
We know that the carbon peak and carbon neutrality have been integrated into ecological conservation. What progress has been made and what measures will be taken in the future? Vice Minister of Ecology and Environment, thank you for your question. Realizing carbon peak and carbon neutrality is the well thought out and strategic decision of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core. They signal the beginning of a critical period in China's ecological conservation efforts, with emission reduction as a strategic priority, and carry great significance for green and low carbon transformation and high-quality development. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, under the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on ecological conservation, China has made great achievements in green and low carbon transformation, bringing tremendous benefits to the people. Important progress has been made in the following three areas. First, in the energy green and low carbon transformation, with renewable energy installation exceeding 1 billion kilowatts and the installed capacity of hydropower, wind power, solar power, and biomass leading in the world. The proportion of clean energy consumption has increased from 14.5% to 25.5%. Coal use has become cleaner and more efficient, with ultra-low emission coal-fired power units exceeding 1 billion kilowatts and leading the world in energy efficiency and emission reduction. Second, energy conservation and emission reduction have been effective. China has sustained an average annual economic growth of 6.5% with an annual average growth of 3% in energy consumption and reduced energy intensity by 26.2%, equivalent to 1.4 billion tons of standard coal and 2.94 billion tons of carbon emission. China has gone beyond the NDC targets for carbon intensity reduction. Third, a growing number of people are aware of the concept that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets and choose for themselves a simple and moderate, green and low carbon, civilized and healthy way of life. Since the twin carbon targets were put forward in 2020, under the personal planning, direction, and commitment of General Secretary Xi Jinping, the top-level design for carbon peak and carbon neutrality has been completed, featuring a 1+M policy architecture. The march towards the twin carbon goals was off to a good start with solid steps and steady progress. From now on, we will focus on the following aspects. Firstly, we must enhance coordination. We will continue to flesh out the 1+M policy architecture, implement 10 action plans for carbon peak, and support the architecture with implementing measures in various areas. We will establish a unified and standardized carbon emission accounting system. Secondly, we will drive the energy revolution to bolster new energy development. We plan to build 450 million kilowatts of large wind power and solar power bases in deserts and Gobi area. In fact, 85 million kilowatts of projects have already been launched, and we will move faster to build the new energy supply and absorption system with the second batch of projects. We will promote clean and efficient coal use. Coal-fired power units with coal consumption above 300 grams per kilowatt-hour must be upgraded. I should emphasize that China is rich in coal, poor in oil, and short of gas. In this context, traditional energy must be gradually replaced by safe and reliable new energy alternatives. And safety must be ensured in coal reduction process. Thirdly, we will promote green and low-carbon transformation of industries. We will upgrade key industries to meet energy efficiency standards, accelerate the R&D and dissemination of advanced and applicable technologies, actively develop green finance, and regulate the carbon market. We will be resolute in curbing the unrestrained development of energy guzzling, high-emission, and low-level projects. Fourth, we will advocate green lifestyles. We will encourage low-carbon consumption and green mobility, and carry out public campaigns to make green lifestyles a new social fad. Fifth, we will take an active part in global climate governance. We will engage in multilateral and bilateral dialogues, exchanges, and practical cooperation, and contribute to fair, reasonable, and win-win global environmental governance system. Achieving the twin carbon goals involves broad and profound changes in economic and social systems, which is never easy. We will implement the new development concepts with accuracy and integrity, follow the decision and direction of the CPC Central Committee, maintain our strategic focus, and reaffirm our commitment to the twin carbon goals. We will not treat it as a whirlwind campaign, but a significant endeavor that can only be achieved with solid and steady steps to deliver real results. Thank you. Next question. CNBC.
My question is about free trade areas China signed with other countries. So in this process, what are the features of China's opening up, and what benefits these FTAs can bring to foreign invested enterprises in China? And what's your plan in the next stage? MOFCOM, please. Thank you. Thank you for your questions. Just now I have mentioned that in the past decade, China has made remarkable progress in building free trade areas. The number of FTAs signed by China has doubled in the past decade with a higher quality. So at the same time, we can also see a lot of other features. I like to highlight two features. First, in terms of trading goods, the new FTAs China has signed enjoyed lower tariff levels with more efficient clearance procedures. Since 2012, when the 18th CPC National Congress was held, China has signed 9 FTAs with Switzerland, South Korea, Australia, and some other countries. Most of the FTAs China has signed, among them, over 90% of such goods covered in such FTAs enjoy zero tariff treatment, and for the highest, it enjoyed 97% zero tariff treatment. It means that When foreign invested enterprises in China import products, they do not need to pay tariff, and when they export, they do not need to pay tariffs either. So it will greatly benefit enterprises operating in China. In terms of efficiency in customs clearance, in 2012, it usually took 4 days for goods to go through the customs clearance procedure in both in either export and import. Now it will only take 1 day and a half. In terms of export, it usually took 12 hours to declare for customs clearance, and now it has been reduced to 1 hour, 1.2 hours. The second feature is that in services and investment, we have seen broader market access with more opening up. For example, in trade, in services, when China joined the WTO, we committed to open up 100 sectors. In the recent RCEP, we added another 22 sectors for opening up. And we have also increased our commitment to 37 sectors that we have already opened up. In terms of investment, we have introduced an active list approach and made commitments on higher level opening up in manufacturing, agriculture, forestry, fishery, and the mining sector. When it comes to the benefits for foreign invested enterprises, it can be said that such FTAs have increased the access for foreign enterprises to come to China. At the same time, it also enables foreign invested enterprises in China to go to China's FTA partners so that they will have more investment opportunities because more and more sectors have been liberalized. At the same time, these FTAs have expanded have also made China more international and operates more based on the rule of law and the market principles, bringing more opportunities to FIEs. I hope that you will seize opportunities in this process. Looking ahead, as envisaged by President Xi Jinping, we will build a network of TAs which is globally oriented and at a higher level. We will have a strategy to upgrade our FTA. So we will actively engage in negotiations for China to join CPTPP and DELPA. At the same time, we will move faster in FTA negotiations, tripartite negotiations with South Korea and Japan, and also with the Gulf states and other partners. I believe that with more and more FTA signs, the benefits of opening up brought by FTAs will come to more Chinese foreign enterprises and the general public. Thank you, all the ministers on the podium. This comes to the end of our press conference. Thank you.